I'd like to introduce Michael Butts. Thank you, Dr. Butts, for coming tonight to speak with us.
Again, my name is Michael Butts. I'm a proud father, former police officer with Cincinnati PD in Ohio, former teacher, assistant principal, and an elected school board member in the Roosevelt School Board District, on the Roosevelt Elementary School District. So besides being a proud father, one of the most proudest moments here is that I'm a Democrat who is running for Arizona Superintendent of Public Instruction. 20 years ago, when I left the police force, I left because I realized that I would never bend the arc towards our children's futures towards success and moral courage if I did not reach them earlier. And I knew that the surest way to do this was by providing them access to excellent schools and qualified teachers. That's because knowledge is the ladder to opportunity. And that is what led me to teaching in public schools and earning my doctorate in education. What unites all of these schools, though, sorry, let me start over. I've worked in schools of all backgrounds, number one. And these kids come from all communities with different social, economic backgrounds and groups. But here's what I learned. What unites all these kids, though, are, their first day of school. When they come to school, they realize that they are all full of potential and they're all curious. As they grow and learn, they begin to think about and dream about what it is that they can do in the world and the person that they will one day become. Their future is unwritten and all things are possible. To help these students on this journey, there is a dedicated team of professionals that help them in public schools. And some of these people are teachers, administrators like I am, social workers, food service personnel, bus drivers, staff members that help them with 504s or IEPs, right? Some of you may have retired from the educational school system. Some of you may have parents that worked in schools, brothers or sisters that work in schools. And let's not forget the men and women that ensure campus safety and operations. They're there to support learning, and they need our support too. Right now, they're not getting it. Like you, I've seen the legislature starve education, siphon money into private schools, denigrate science, ban books, underpay teachers, and even rewrite American history. Now, Donald Trump's jumping in with even more funding cuts, abolishing the Department of Education, and I believe inflicting on us some of the most cruelest, most divisive politics that America has ever seen. And is Superintendent Tom Horn, is he fighting to protect our children? No. He actually said that President Donald Trump should, in fact, abolish the Department of Education. And here's what Tom Horn has also done. He's partnered Arizona schools with an alt-right curriculum that teaches that slavery was, and I quote, a compromise to achieving something great. It also teaches that fossil fuels aren't causing global warming and that murder victim George Floyd, and again I quote, was a Black man who resisted arrest. We need to get the damaged and intolerant people who teach false history and deny science out of our public schools. At this moment in history, in Arizona, children in schools don't just need another administrator. They need a champion, a leader who values public education and free thinking, and who will rally people together at the Capitol to fight for them. That is what I'll do in this election and as your next superintendent. I am the only candidate for superintendent that is running clean. I am the only candidate that is beholden to no one. And as a people power candidate, I will never stop fighting for public schools. I hope that you'll join my campaign to protect the dreams and opportunities of a new generation. I hope that you'll become a part of this movement and this effort to return the oversight of public schools back to leaders who want to see them succeed. Thank you.
Do
Oh,
you think schools should increase media literacy lessons?
that's a great question. So, school districts are performing at various levels of providing quality education here in Arizona. Not every school district is at the same place, right? There are school districts that are doing that are having really great results and outcomes for kids, and they may not feel the need to tweak any of their curriculum. But then there are other school districts that are having struggle, and they do need other strategies, such as increased media strategies. I believe it's up to that school district to find out exactly what they need. But most importantly, I think they need to have the funding to implement whatever strategy they need to produce the outcomes for their kids. And right now, we are not getting the funding. Our public schools are being defunded, and they are having to perform at levels that families and parents consider to be acceptable without the money to do it.
Okay. Next question. What is your position on the Arizona voucher program?
Sure. I think it's the biggest scam in boondoggle since the legislation that passed for alternative energy fuel vehicles. I believe that happened back in 2007, 2008. Most of you may know this already, but there was some legislation that passed back in that time where families were getting these tax write-offs to purchase alternative fuel vehicles. But here's the problem. What they found was the way that the legislation was written is that it gave really families that had the ability and the resources that they could buy these types of vehicles at tremendous, huge taxpayer discounts, and then turn around and flip them and sell them for profit. And so I think there was like 120 something million dollars discovered in this scam. And so we are way far away from 120 million. We're at $1 billion, right? Over $1 billion right now. Our tax dollars coming out of public schools, and so we have not seen a scam like this ever in Arizona. And so the problem is it's been a strategic plan for a while, and we have unfortunately have somebody in this position for superintendent of public instruction that supports the privatization of education with our tax dollars. And so we need someone in there that can fight against this. There are several things I can do once I get in office and once you elect me to this role to slow down that money from coming out of taxpayers to private schools. But ultimately, we're definitely going to need a partner, enough partners in our legislative body to overturn some of the things that are happening with the ESA vouchers. Okay, number one, Prop 123. We need enough advocates for Prop 123 to be approved without the ESA vouchers being guaranteed constitutionally within that proposition. And so that's what I'm hoping, that we get enough pushback in the legislative body to make sure that doesn't happen. If it does happen, ESA vouchers will be constitutionally protected, and you are going to see more public schools closing. I guarantee it.
What do you think about standardized testing?
Sure. Anytime you spend money on anything, you want to know what the outcomes are going to be, right? So how do we know that what we're doing with public dollars is working? Right? There are a lot of school districts that know exactly what to do with money once you give it to them, and then there are other school districts that don't have the complete success as other school districts. So yes, there needs to be a way to know if the money we're being given, right? Because it is public dollars, the money that we're being given is being utilized in the most effective way. And we know that sometimes money is not always used in the best effective way, right? But I can guarantee you this: if public schools and administrators were doing what the parents are doing with ESA vouchers, if we were doing some of the same things they're doing with public dollars, you all know that people would be going to jail and being charged with fraud. So I believe there's got to be a way to make sure that kids are learning, they're showing academic growth, and that's one of the problems with ESA vouchers. Those students are not being tested, right? We don't know what their academic growth is. And so right now in Arizona, we're spending about $10,000 or yeah, about $10,000 per student. And we're 48th in specific rankings of producing a quality education for kids. When you look at top 10, the top two states, let's just look at the top two, Massachusetts and New Jersey. They're spending $24,000 a year per student. They're spending $26,000 per year per student. So we've got to spend more money per kid to produce a real quality education. In this role as superintendent of public instruction, yes, I will be responsible for all kids' learning and growth in Arizona, right? And that's the governing piece of it. But for public schools, we really do need to make sure that when we spend money, kids are showing growth and they're learning. So I believe that testing is necessary. Do we need, all the tests that we use? Maybe not. Maybe we can bring all the stakeholders of education together and say, what tests do we really need? Right? What do we want our kids to know day one when they graduate to be successful, whether it's in college, whether it's a 2-year college, whether it's day one at Intel or Qualcomm or Verizon Wireless, wherever they're going to be successful, they need to be ready day one when they graduate high school.
Okay, next question. What, if anything, would you change about school security?
Sure. There's a lot of policies that have been enacted since just over the last year in terms of school safety, right? They've changed the policy to where now board members of school districts, they're now responsible for mandatory reporting requirements, right? So we're doing a lot of great things to make sure kids are protected, right? So in terms of what I would do to make sure that kids are protected even more than what we can do now, I believe that involves all stakeholders being at the table at once. I don't think there's any one quick solution to making sure kids feel safe, but here's what I can tell you. I'm a former police officer. I know what it's like to make sure that the community feels safe, right? And we can learn from situations that do happen in our communities. And sometimes they happen inside the schools, sometimes they happen outside the schools. But whatever scenarios that we have in front of us to learn from, we can tabletop those and we can find out how and what it takes to keep kids safe. And that's a growing and never failing conversation.
Okay, next question is, please tell us more about your experience as an administrator and as a teacher.
Sure. I was just with a cohort of students that are getting their master's degree, and the particular course that they were learning tonight or in tonight was supervision of instruction. And these were NAU students. And so I'm a former NAU student with my master's and doctorate, as you saw. And so I was invited to talk to these professionals who are trying to be an administrator at either an elementary setting or the high school setting. And so one of the things we talked about was making sure that teachers feel supported, right? And so as an administrator, a good administrator will make sure that they have the right relationship with teachers to be able to guide them instructionally, to always help them grow as a professional, increase their experience with pedagogy and building relationships with not only the students but also with parents, to make sure parents feel engaged, right? Because when you have that wraparound team and you've got all the key people at the table concerning that student, you're gonna be able to do great things in that classroom. And so from an administrative standpoint, I truly understand being in that role, number one, for 2 years in elementary and then for 3 years in the high school administrative setting. I know that all parents are the same, whether they have an elementary kid or whether they have a high school kid. Every parent wants their kids to be successful no matter what, right? And so it's about making sure that parent is engaged. It's about making sure that teacher understands the importance of making sure that parent is engaged. And it's about making sure that that student is supported no matter what their needs are. Because we know students have different needs, whether they're have a 504, whether they have an IEP, or whether they're more advanced and they need more rigor and challenge, right? They have advanced cognitive abilities, and that's why I like my work with Arizona Association for Gifted and Talented Children. Being able to make sure that no matter where that student is supported and successful.
Okay, and the final question, what is your position on providing schools funding for students with disabilities, knowing that IDEA is not fully funded?
You know, it's very sad, you know, because you're talking about students who, you know, who need additional support, and they may have the right economic background. They may need more financial support as well. But no matter where they are in terms of their background and economically, any student that needs that additional support, whether behaviorally or psychologically, you know, the federal government has always had a role to play in making education equitable. And so my phrase, my thing, my statement, if there ever was a slogan, right, is education is not a right until it's fully funded, right? Because if students need additional support and they don't have the necessary funds to back up that support, then for them, education is not a right. And that is the bedrock of our democracy. And this is why it's sad to see that the Department of Education has cut personnel in you know, in numbers that don't make any sense at all. This is why, and this is why it's because here's the thing: it's not like they cut those jobs and they said that, you know, we're going to have businesses and corporations fill in the gap and donate money to make sure that there's no student that's left unsupported. No, they just cut jobs. And school districts have been, I know for Roosevelt, we get 15 million from federal funds, right? And we also need to look at it in context. Not only did they cut jobs, but they also said, if you don't change your curriculum and you don't get rid of that DEI stuff, we're going to hold your federal funding. So a lot of school districts earlier last year was scrambling and afraid of how they're going to meet the needs of their kids. And grateful enough, and a federal judge in August of last year supported education, public education, and said, no, the federal government cannot tell local school districts what their curriculum should be. It is unconstitutional, it is unlawful, and it is procedurally incorrect. And so they dropped that issue just recently. We're grateful as educators that happened. But hopefully from what I just said, you can get a grasp of how I felt when the federal government did that with the Department of Education. We are, you know, all of us are collecting signatures right now to get on the ballot. So my website is www.electmdb.com. I would love your support. I am running clean as a clean election candidate. You can donate $5. And once enough people do that, the state of Arizona will give you money to talk to voters. So thank you for having me, and I'll yield the floor to you.
Thank you, Dr. Butts. We have been really emphasizing supporting our clean election candidates and getting people to go online and sign ballots. So we will again reinforce that. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.